Hi, I hope you enjoyed the keynote. I'm John Falk, ADM Pre-Sales Manager for OpenText. And for this session, I'm going to talk about the crucial role of DevSecOps in modern software delivery. And that's such a key topic for so many people these days, is putting security into the DevOps practice. And I'm also going to touch a little bit on the influence of AI in DevOps. So quite a bit of things to cover. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. What we're seeing from DevOps, and the goal of DevOps originally was to deliver more, better, and faster, but that comes with a cost. And what we're starting to see across the industry is software developer burnout. Software developers are asking to increase the velocity so they can decrease their time to market of delivering applications. So historically, they may have done an annual release, then they went to biannual, then they went to quarterly, and in some cases now it's monthly releases of software. And at the same time, they're being asked to do things like shift left testing, which is putting additional strain on development organizations. And in many cases, they have less resources to work with. So we're seeing a lot of software development burnout. As such, we're also seeing a higher level of defects and issues moving into production. And I know one of the original concept of Agile was fail fast, fix fast. And where that may sound good on the surface, for a lot of organizations, especially larger enterprises that may have some regulatory or compliance mandates that they have to meet, having vulnerabilities or defects slip into production just isn't acceptable. And we know the cost of fixing issues once they move into production is substantially more than fixing it ahead of time in the development cycle. And thirdly, because of this higher velocity, we see security testing, when we should be increasing the level of security testing in our applications, actually decreasing, because security historically didn't move at the pace of DevOps. It wasn't as agile as the developers were delivering code. And unfortunately, frequently, it's being left off of the DevOps practice, and security just isn't being embraced as much as it should, and vulnerabilities are being exploited. Testing is so critical to deliver effective applications in modern DevOps practices. And nothing stuck out more than the recent CrowdStrike issue that we all saw a couple of months ago. And we saw something as simple as a software update impacting the Microsoft operating system that CrowdStrike ran on, with millions of devices impacted globally, thousands of flights canceled, 911 services down in multiple states, and billions of dollars in lost revenue for the organizations impacted by CrowdStrike. And in many organizations, these are just unacceptable outages that are simply could be avoided with the appropriate testing. And that's what DevOps was trying to deliver, right? An end-to-end software delivery concept where everybody was in lockstep with what needed to move from ideation into production. And initially, it looks simple. Most of us are maybe familiar with some version of the DevOps Infinity slide, where we plan the work, we code, we build it, we test it. We manage the release, hand it over to operations to run and monitor, and start that cycle again with planning. But in actuality, it's much more complex than that simple infinity loop looks. Many organizations, especially larger enterprise, have open source software, freeware software, enterprise business software like we sell. They may have gained a lot of technology through acquisitions, have some legacy acquisition or some legacy technology still in their environment from divestitures, and shadow IT groups that have brought software into the organization to add capabilities for a specific project. So these are all great technologies on these slides, and they all say they're open and extensible and have REST interfaces, which is true. But integrating them all together to provide visibility across the entire DevOps practice is complicated. And that's exactly what we're trying to address with the OpenText DevOps technology stack. And we really talk about engineering reimagined. Our goal is to provide our customers a safe mechanism to develop their software faster, to do it safer with a high level of confidence, and to do it smarter with the right analytics, the right oversight, and the right visibility. And our portfolio, while it's robust, is relatively straightforward. We start at the top with strategy and portfolio management, that ideation that we need to deliver, on into execution with the DevOps platform on the right side of the wheel. Quality management, making sure the right tests are run at the right time to validate the capability going into production meets the business needs. Once we run and manage those tests, let's automate them with functional testing. There's a goal in many organizations to do as much automated testing as possible. It's difficult for companies to get to maybe 100% test automation, but if they can get to the 70-30 or 80-20 rule, where 70 or 80% of their tests are automated, it increases efficiency, decreases the risk of quality issues moving into production, and takes a lot of stress off the teams that are writing and running tests. And then once we validate that that test works from a functional perspective, it does what it should, we move into performance engineering to say what happens with that application when it's used under load, maybe 1,000, 10,000, or 100,000 users trying to access that application. How well does it continue to perform at those levels? That's what we are able to supply our customers with from a DevOps cloud perspective. And you can see a lot of the customers across the bottom of the screen that have taken advantage of that technology and have gained a lot of efficiencies and cost savings in their organizations. And it's all about delivering value. That's the promise of DevOps. So from an historical perspective, we started with waterfall, moved to iterative and on to agile, all to increase velocity and decrease our time to market. Later, we moved into CI/CD, continuous integration and delivery, where we wanted to automate a lot of those processes, again, to increase that velocity and decrease risk. Automate the builds, automate the tests, and automate the packages and deployments that our applications were using to move into production. And those first 4 boxes were really focused on the development teams. And what we saw, and especially when they started developing faster, was operations was being left behind. Software was being thrown over the fence to the operations teams, and they might not have been prepared. Maybe additional ports needed to be opened, or some additional infrastructure needed to be added, or database updates needed to be done to support this code that was being delivered by the development team. So we saw the rise of DevOps, where they wanted to create a linkage between the development organization and the operations organization so they could work seamlessly together to make sure that once applications were developed, they met the demand of the business. And these first 5 boxes are really focused on the technology teams. But then the businesses themselves started to ask, are we getting the value out of these investments that we're making? Because these are huge investments from a technology perspective and an infrastructure perspective to make sure that what is being delivered and moved into production meets the business value. And that's where we saw value stream management emerge. And most recently, and we've all heard a lot about this lately, is the impact of AI. What is the impact of AI in the software development lifecycle? Well, it's still in its infancy, but for sure, it's something that we need to be considering how it's going to impact how we deliver software across the organization. Will it be a pillar in into itself, or will AI just be across the entire software development lifecycle? That's still kind of being worked out, and it'll be interesting to see how that journey unfolds. But what is important is to make sure we're looking beyond just the historical DevOps and really looking at the impact of security. Vulnerabilities are being exploited at a faster and faster rate, and we want to make sure that what we're releasing from a development perspective not only meets the business demand, but is having as low risk as possible. That's why if you look on the dev side of the infinity loop, you see static and dynamic code analysis, technology solutions that as we're building and delivering code, it is being done in a secure fashion. Security monitoring and logging and auditing once things move into operations. Again, these are great technology solutions, but they also need to be handled by corporate policy, right? Make sure we're doing code reviews and peer testing, penetration testing, threat intelligence, and patch management, and that we have a policy around compliance. So we have policy-driven and technology-driven security assets interwoven and integrated with DevOps. That's where we can have a high level of confidence that we're producing and releasing secure applications for production environments. With our Value Edge platform at DevOps Cloud, we specifically built a technology framework to support enterprise DevOps at scale to meet business demand. Value Edge has all those capabilities we see in the DevOps Infinity Loop, that ideation in the strategy module, on into Agile for delivery, testing in the center, release validation, who's signing off on a release, and do we know it's being moved into production and that it's been tested appropriately, and then a clean handoff to the operations team, all with a high level of visibility and insights across the top. Now, some organizations will say, we already have a tool for our Agile backlog management, which is great. In order to maximize that investment, then the Agile backlog within Value Edge can become a repository for that Agile data, so it can still take advantage of all the capabilities of the Value Edge DevOps-powered platform. And here are a couple screenshots of some of the modules within Value Edge. So you can see it's a modern, intuitive UI and custom built and designed for the different teams that are taking advantage of these capabilities to get the most value out of using these modules and working through their DevOps practice. But in the end, I feel it's all about user experience. And here's an actual screenshot of ValueEdge where we're showing the backlog and I'm showing some features and their predicted delivery date. But most importantly here is the menu on the left, where you can see ValueEdge is designed specifically to navigate through the DevOps lifecycle with insights and analytics at the top, strategy management, agile delivery, quality management, functional and performance testing, and then that release process in an intuitive, easy to use format that the users want to use. I kind of think of it like a smartphone app. Many people these days, if they download a SmartLoad app and they can't figure it out within 30 to 60 seconds, they're going to move on to a different app that's easier to use. So with ValueEdge, we intermixed enterprise class software with an easy to use intuitive interface that meets the demands of a modern DevOps practice. And again, what's most important is to make sure security is embedded in that process so it doesn't get left behind or left out. In order for that to work effectively, the security components need to be integrated, they need to be automated, and they need to support enterprise agility. And that's exactly what we're delivering with OpenText technology stacks. And I talked a little bit earlier about what we can do from an AI perspective. Again, another critical component in the DevOps journey. And what we're seeing in per the Harvard Business Review, companies that wait to adopt AI may never catch up. You don't want to be the company at the bottom of the screen here, downhill. I think of an overused analogy, which is Blockbuster, where as Netflix was starting to stream their content up to the internet, Blockbuster was concerned because they have over 3,000 stores nationwide, and they thought that streaming business would impact their stores. And it did. It just wasn't theirs. Netflix embraced that technology and ultimately put Blockbuster out of business. And that could happen for organizations that don't have a good AI strategy. With early adopters of ethical AI, you can have your company out in front of the pack, making sure they're doing things the right way, increasing velocity across the SDLC, decreasing risk, increasing productivity while reducing cost and improving quality. And that's it. That's exactly what many organizations want to do. And that's the promise of AI. We really can improve quality while reducing cost and decreasing risk if we have a smart approach to our AI journey. Regardless of where organizations are at from an AI perspective, it's causing us all to rethink software delivery. You can be sure the executives in your organization are thinking about AI, your employees are thinking about AI, your customers are thinking about AI, and for sure your competitors are thinking about AI. So whether you're an early adopter of AI, if you just haven't embraced it yet and you're still evaluating it, or you're just dipping your toe in the water with AI, the critical component there is your organization should start thinking of and have an AI strategy. So as that technology continues to evolve, you're ready to consume it at a rate that makes sense for your organization. And so what have we done from a DevOps perspective with our Aviator AI technology? Well, in the initial release of our AI capabilities in the ValueEdge platform, we introduced a smart assistant where we can use natural language to interact with the platform, analyze features, suggest KPIs, look at defects, for example, and then generate test ideas. Not necessarily the steps within the test, but just if a feature is created, what tests need to be authored in order to validate that functionality, saving the team a lot of time to figure out what test assets need to be generated. And then the time to market prediction, analyzing features to say, here's the existing velocity, the remaining work that needs to be done. And based on all this data, is that feature going to be delivered on time to its assigned release or milestone? And if not, what can we do to resolve it? Do we need to reevaluate that feature, assign more resources, or rescope some work or reprioritize work to make sure we're delivering what the business needs? Most recently, we've added additional capabilities around our test generation where rather than just author the test, we're actually creating the test steps within the test, which can be evaluated by the team to make sure they agree with those test steps, and they can change, modify, or add or delete any of them. But again, just saving a lot of time of all that manual work of authoring those test steps. Then once that test is executed and repeatable, at a click of a button, take that manual test and convert it to a codeless automated test to help with that automated test journey, like I talked about earlier, where we want to get to 70 to 80% of our tests as automated tests. And this process makes that much simpler and much more straightforward. User story recommendations. Once that feature has been authored and created, what user stories need to be deconstructed from that feature and then assigned out to the development teams and the sprints to make sure that all the requirements for that feature are combined into those user stories that can be delivered on time. And then continuing to expand the virtual assistant with that natural language interface to make sure that all the teams that need data out of the platform are able to get it when they need it. And of course, integrating the security component into the DevOps pipeline and to make sure that Value Edge has a specific metrics around the security scans that are being done to help fix security vulnerabilities faster, give advanced warning, and keep things in context so there's less fire drills and improving the confidence of our releases from a security perspective. And what are we doing next? Again, we have a huge roadmap of technology we're looking to deliver, but a couple of simple things like smart change impact testing. If you have 1,000 tests that need to be run to validate an application and just 2 lines of code are changed, you need to really run all 10,000 or 1,000 tests? Maybe just 5 or 6 tests need to be run to validate that. So let smart change impact testing tell the quality teams what tests need to be executed just to validate a recent code change. Or asset-based similarity. Many agile backlogs are becoming cluttered with redundant data. Multiple user stories or defects that are identical. So when a new defect, for example, is entered, the asset-based similarity will identify that that defect or one like it already exists in the system, and will ask the defect submitter if theirs is really unique or if that defect is already represented by something else listed in the platform. And then outside of Aviator, one analysis, more analytics and dashboards for performance management to make sure that our applications are running correctly under load and the correct teams have visibility into what's being delivered. And then agile roadmap capabilities continue to align the ideation and what we're delivering for the business to meet the business demand. And kind of like I started, I kind of like to end where we talk about engineering reimagined. And the wheel there on the right, where we talk about that ideation, that execution from DevOps, managing the quality, automating as much as possible, making sure things run under load, and all of that wrapped around Aviator and security and governance, where we have that compliance reporting if necessary, and the analytics to give the business view that what they're delivering is at a high value, and again, automate as much as we can with our AI technology. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this session. Please click the Join Session button to join the fireside chat.